The first time I saw her daughter, I knew exactly who she was. Not because she looked exactly like my childhood best friend. It was something smaller than that. The way she stood on my doorstep with both hands wrapped around the strap of her purse. The way she looked down before speaking, as if she was afraid the words might hurt me. Then she said, "My mother told me that if I ever found you, I should give you this." She handed me a small blue envelope. My name was written across the front in handwriting I hadn't seen in 32 years. I didn't open it. Not immediately. Because I knew whose handwriting it was. It belonged to the girl who had once promised me she would never disappear. And then, one summer morning, she did. My best friend's name was Emily. We met when we were 9 years old because our mothers happened to live on the same street. I was the quiet kid who spent most afternoons reading on the front porch. Emily was the opposite. She could turn walking to the mailbox into an adventure. She climbed trees, rode her bicycle too fast, and once convinced me that the abandoned house at the end of our street was haunted. I believed her completely. We became inseparable. Every summer, we made plans for our future. At 12, we decided we'd live next door to each other when we grew up. At 14, we promised we'd be each other's maids of honor. At 16, we started talking about boys and pretending we weren't interested in anyone. And at 17, we began realizing that childhood wasn't going to last forever. That scared both of us. One evening, we sat on the hood of my father's old car watching the sun disappear behind the trees. Emily was unusually quiet. I asked her what was wrong. She shrugged. "Do you ever feel like everything is changing?" I laughed. "Everything is changing." "No," she said. "I mean faster than we're ready for." I didn't know what to say. So I made the mistake people often make when they're young. I promised her nothing would change. "You'll always have me," I said. She smiled. "You'd better mean that." "I do." She held out her little finger. I hooked mine around it. "Forever?" "Forever." I still remember that promise. Because less than a year later, she disappeared. The summer after graduation, Emily's father lost his job. Her family had already been struggling financially, but things became worse very quickly. I remember noticing that Emily stopped buying lunch at school. When I asked, she'd say she wasn't hungry. She also stopped talking about college. One afternoon, I went to her house and found boxes stacked everywhere. "What happened?" She looked embarrassed. "We're moving." "Where?" "Somewhere near my aunt." "When?" She hesitated. "Tomorrow." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. I asked why she hadn't told me. Emily looked at the floor. "I wanted to." "Then why didn't you?" "I knew you'd make me stay." I remember getting angry. Not because she was leaving. Because she had decided I wasn't important enough to tell. We argued. Then we cried. Eventually, she hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "All right," she promised. "You'd better." "I will." "And you'll call." "I will." "And you'll come back." She didn't answer that one. The next morning, her family's moving truck was gone. Emily was gone. And I was left standing on the sidewalk holding a friendship bracelet she'd given me when we were 13. At first, I waited. Every day, I checked the mailbox. Nothing. A week passed. Then 2. I called the number I had for her family. Disconnected. I asked her aunt if she knew where they had gone. She told me Emily's family had moved again. Nobody seemed to know where. I was angry. I convinced myself Emily had simply forgotten me. That was easier than believing something bad had happened. Months became years. I went to college. I got married. I had children. Life became busy in the way life always does. But every now and then, something reminded me of her. A song. A blue bicycle. A certain perfume. Once, I saw a woman in a grocery store who looked exactly like Emily from behind. I followed her halfway across the store before realizing it wasn't her. I felt ridiculous. But I also felt disappointed. Eventually, I stopped looking. I told myself that people grow apart. Maybe Emily had built a new life. Maybe she didn't want to be found. I tried to respect that. Still, there was one question I never managed to bury. Why hadn't she said goodbye? 32 years after Emily disappeared, someone knocked on my door. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I almost didn't answer. When I opened it, I saw a woman standing there. She looked to be around 30. Dark hair. Green eyes. A nervous smile. "Are you Daniel?" "Yes." She swallowed. "My name is Anna." I waited. Then she said something that made the entire world seem to go silent. "I'm Emily's daughter." I actually stepped backward. For a moment, I couldn't speak. She looked at me carefully. "I know this is strange. Where is your mother?" Her expression changed. That was when I knew. Something had happened. She passed away 3 months ago. I gripped the doorframe. I didn't know why those words affected me so deeply. Emily had been gone for 32 years. In my mind, she had existed somewhere in the world, living her life. Knowing she had died made the years suddenly real. How? Cancer. I lowered my head. Anna continued. "She talked about you." I looked up. She did? All the time. That was when I started crying. Not loudly. Just tears I couldn't stop. Anna reached into her purse. "This is for you." The blue envelope. My name. Emily's handwriting. I stared at it for almost a minute. Then I finally opened it. "Daniel. If you're reading this, Anna found you. I don't know whether you'll be angry. I don't know whether you'll forgive me. But I need you to know something I should have told you a long time ago." I stopped reading. My hands were shaking. Anna sat quietly across from me. I continued. "I didn't leave because I wanted to." That sentence broke something inside me. For 32 years, I believed she had chosen to disappear. She hadn't. Emily explained that shortly after the family moved, her father had become seriously ill. Her mother had struggled with depression. The family moved from place to place because they couldn't keep up with rent. Emily eventually left school and began working. She wanted to contact me. Several times, she tried. But every letter she sent came back. At one point, she found my family home had been sold. She didn't know where I'd gone. Then she met Anna's father. They married young. Emily became a mother. And life kept moving. But she never forgot me. Then I reached the part that made me put the letter down. There is another reason I stayed away. I looked at Anna. "Did you know about this?" She shook her head. "No." I continued reading. Emily had been diagnosed with a serious illness in her 20s. Doctors initially believed she had very little time. She became convinced that if she contacted me, I would try to come into her life again out of guilt. She didn't want that. She didn't want me to feel responsible for a friendship that had ended before either of us understood what adulthood meant. Then something happened. She got better. Years passed. She wanted to find me. But by then, she was embarrassed. She had waited too long. She didn't know how to explain 30 years of silence. So she did what people sometimes do when they are ashamed. She waited even longer. Anna was crying by then. "She talked about you constantly," she said. "What did she say?" Anna smiled through her tears. She said you were the person who taught her what it felt like to have a best friend. I looked down at the letter. There was one final paragraph. I don't expect you to understand why I stayed away. I don't even understand it myself anymore. But I want you to know that when I disappeared, I didn't stop caring about you. Some people leave your life without leaving your heart. You were one of those people. At the bottom, she had written, "Forever, like we promised." I couldn't breathe for a moment. The little finger promise came rushing back. 2 teenagers sitting on the hood of a car. 2 children who thought forever was something they could control. Anna stayed for almost 3 hours that afternoon. We talked about Emily. I wanted to know everything. What had she been like as an adult? Did she still laugh loudly? Did she still hate thunderstorms? Did she still collect ridiculous things? Anna laughed. She kept an entire drawer of movie tickets. I smiled. That sounds like her. She also hated mushrooms. I laughed. She always said mushrooms tasted like wet paper. Anna laughed too. For the first time, it felt like Emily was sitting between us. Not as a memory. As a person. Anna told me about her childhood. She said Emily had always been protective of her. She worked long hours. She rarely complained. She kept photographs of people from every stage of her life. And apparently, hidden inside one of those albums was a photograph of me. I saw it when I was little, Anna said. I asked who you were. What did she say? She said, "That's Daniel. He was my first best friend." I looked away because I didn't want Anna to see me crying again. Before Anna left, she asked me something. Would you like to see where my mother lived? I said yes. 2 weeks later, I drove to her town. It was a small place I'd never visited. Anna met me outside her mother's house. The house was modest. White walls. Small garden. A wooden bench beneath an old tree. When I walked inside, I felt something strange. There were pieces of Emily everywhere. Books stacked beside the sofa. Photographs on the walls. A blue ceramic bowl in the kitchen. And on the refrigerator, a child's drawing. Anna smiled. My mother kept everything. Even bad drawings? Especially bad drawings. We laughed. Then Anna took me upstairs. She opened a closet. Inside was a small cardboard box. This is the last thing. I opened it. Inside was my old friendship bracelet. The same one I had been holding on the sidewalk 32 years earlier. I stared at it. How did she get this? Anna smiled. You gave it to her. I shook my head. No. She gave it to me. Anna looked confused. Then she pulled out a photograph. It was from the summer before she left. We were sitting on the hood of my father's car. Our hands were linked. And around Emily's wrist was the matching bracelet. I suddenly remembered. We had exchanged them. I had completely forgotten. Emily hadn't. On the drive home, I thought about all the years I'd spent believing she abandoned me. I had been angry with someone who had been fighting battles I knew nothing about. But I also realized something else. There was no perfect ending. There was no magical way to recover 32 lost years. I couldn't go back to being 17. I couldn't sit with Emily on that car again. I couldn't tell her that I finally understood. But I could carry her memory differently. Not as the friend who disappeared. As the friend who never really stopped caring. A month later, Anna called me. She asked if I'd be willing to come to her mother's memorial. I went. There were maybe 40 people there. Family. Neighbors. Old friends. People who had known Emily in the years when I didn't. When it was my turn to speak, I stood in front of everyone holding the old photograph. I told them about two kids who made a ridiculous promise. I told them about the abandoned house, the bicycle rides, the summer nights. Then I said something I hadn't expected to say. I spent 32 years thinking my friend had forgotten me. I looked at Anna. She hadn't. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. After the service, Anna came over. She hugged me. "Thank you for coming." I said, "Thank you for finding me." That was 3 years ago. Anna and I still keep in touch. She sends me photographs. I send her stories about her mother she never knew. Sometimes we laugh about how different our memories of Emily are. Sometimes we cry. And once a year, on the anniversary of the day Emily left, I drive to the old neighborhood. The house where we grew up is gone now. There's a parking lot where my father's house used to stand. But I still stop there. I still remember the two of us sitting on that car. Two kids promising forever. I used to think forever meant never being separated. Now I think I understand it differently. Maybe forever isn't about someone staying beside you every day. Maybe it's about the fact that some people can disappear from your life and still leave something behind that time can't erase. Emily disappeared when we were 17. For decades, I thought that was the end of our story. It wasn't. It just took 32 years for the next chapter to find me. And sometimes I think about the young girl I used to be friends with and the woman she eventually became. I wish I'd known what she was going through. I wish she'd called. I wish I'd searched harder. I wish we'd both been brave enough to cross the distance between us. But life doesn't give us back the years we lose. It only gives us the choice of what to do with the years we have left. So I keep the photograph. I keep the letter. And I keep the friendship bracelet. Not because I'm trapped in the past. But because I'm grateful. Grateful that somewhere, after all those years, my childhood best friend still remembered the promise we made. Forever. And somehow, against all odds, she kept it.